would do a couple of things. It would, you know, students, we receive a lot of our funding on a per student basis. So additional students does provide additional funding, but also just like the vitality of having more students in the building, obviously with a limit, right? Is a way that we can then provide additional activities and opportunities to students and things like that. So both on sort of multiple fronts, we're looking at this as an idea. And the other thing that we do is the board is elected by everybody in the district and responsible to everybody in the district. And so, like, we've had conversations with students and staff about this, and we haven't yet had conversations, you know, with the community. So this is the first round of that. So tonight we're hoping to just answer questions, provide information, answer questions, and then collect those questions and information, and then send them out to the community more broadly as well. I think I could go on for another second and say that our intention, we are like, I know all the board members are like, you know, very proud of Mapleton in the school district and all of the staff and everything that we have in Mapleton, especially the small town school feel and all of those things. We don't want to change that. This is not a charter school to change the school district in major ways. In fact, as I think like we'll come across in a lot of, we looked for reasons that becoming a charter would majorly change the districts and haven't yet found a bunch.
Not any huge.
No. So, that's, you know, I just wanted to make that clear at the outset that we aren't looking to make major changes, but we are looking to, you know, increase our ability to offer opportunities to students outside our district boundaries to attend the school if they're interested.
Can I make one suggestion?
Yeah.
For, so there's a couple different types of charters. And what do we call this one? Single district charter. So what we're proposing is what they're proposing, I'm just along for the ride, is a single district charter versus a charter school within a district. And I don't know if anybody wants to add to what that means, but I think it's important. You'll hear different models, and I think it's important to understand that there's two different models out there.
Yeah.
And which one we're talking about.
Yeah, especially since a lot of the charter school stuff in the news recently in neighboring districts all involves a charter, the creation or the maintenance of one charter school within a bigger public school district. And in that case, they need to operate those two different systems, and they need to sort of operate them together, but also separately. So that creates a whole different structure than what we're talking about. Or we're talking about just saying, okay, Mapleton Elementary and High School as a district, you know, is a charter school as a district, and we could operate very similar to how we do now. So we wouldn't have to have sort of two separate entities trying to work together.
So if we changed from Mapleton School District to a charter, would that mean that we would no longer have to pay that loan back for the remodel because Mapleton School District's the one that has that? And so would that still be on our tax statement, or do we get off of that?
Oh, that would be so dreamy. No, we don't get all that.
Quite the loophole.
I know.
I mean,
I know,
Yeah,
it's a
no,
good
it's a
question. It's a really good question.
Kristen, do you want to?
that was a question that somebody
asked on
yeah,
Facebook that I said I would ask.
No,
So
it's
we-
a good question.
We have a bond in the district from, what, 7 years ago now?
Yeah.
And the question in the community is, does switching to a single district charter in any way help us not pay that bill, or does it in any way impact paying that bond back? Is probably a better way to frame it.
I'm fairly sure that you're still fiscally responsible for that piece. The being a single district charter simply means you still keep your school district, you still keep your school. It just happens to mean that your district has one school that goes K through 12, in whatever form that is, and it just happens to be a charter school. And so whatever the district has if they have fiscal obligations, they're still operating as a district that has those fiscal obligations. That's, I mean, I wish I could wave a wand and say, hey, it's all good. But yeah, you're still going to be responsible for that.
I know, that would be like a
My
huge,
guess
would be
is
like,
everybody
okay,
would
let's
be a
vote now.
Let's do that.
It was worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I think you think of it as simply a name change. Everything else, obligations remain the same.
Yeah. And just
Someone on this.
for those who are familiar with other schools in the county, Blatchley School District, Triangle Lake Charter School is a single district charter, like we're proposing, and so is Mackenzie Community School on the other side of the county. And I'm fairly certain at least one of them had a bond they were paying back, when they made this switch however many years ago. I was gonna text and confirm that, but I think I've had that conversation somewhere, so.
Good question. If we become a charter school, does that affect tenure for teachers?
We intend, so that is one of the questions on there. No, we would not intend to, like, we aren't doing this to sort of change the composition or the sort of rules of our staff, like, thing. However, as the on there's listed, there's a difference in the law that, like, as charter schools are responsible for having 50%. I think this is still true, right? Like, I'm not gonna say it's wrong. Okay, 50% of their staff, their teachers, still fully certified by TSBC, and then anybody we would hire that was not needs to be separately endorsed with a different endorsement. So.
So the reason I asked that is because are we in fear of losing any teachers because things would change for them?
No.
No, and the bargaining contract is what defines their salaries and all of those things, and that bargaining contract would not change. So the only thing, there's renegotiating every 2 to 3 years. We have this spring, but we're not like, hey, we're trying to fully change the bargaining while the short answer is no.
Right.
Bargaining.
And do you think that teachers won't see that as less credit
For which part,
for a charter opposed to a standard school?
I don't think
Okay.
they would see that as whether working as being a less credible situation.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
maybe for their benefits or whatever it is, because I know teachers don't get the same benefits as normal workers. Right, and I'm just not sure.
Well, there's this, you mean like certified and classified, like the different levels inside of a school district?
No, I mean, like, for their retirement and their
Oh.
benefits.
Oh, yeah, right.
I think it's all PERS.
It is.
Yeah, I'm seeing it
Yeah,
at none,
it does.
so none of that changes. So, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I'm very familiar with charter schools. My kids went to charter school and my granddaughter's in a charter school. And there in schools, there's a waiting list to go to the schools because they are different. And so if you want to draw students into this school, there's got to be something about the school that's going to draw them here.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, that we haven't done a lot of two things I would say is like, this provides us opportunity to intentionally look at our like programming and decide like what are the best parts that we love and want to keep and what are parts where anywhere we want to make adjustments. Like to put, additional thought. I mean, thought is going into that all the time anyway, but it's another opportunity to do that. Then also, we haven't done a very good job of outreach, for like saying the things that we really do have that are really like, unique, special, or just different from other districts. And we haven't done a great job of putting that out there. It's always been kind of one of those things where we should do a better job of this. This is like, but it's hard, it takes time, all those things. If we choose to go charter and do the work to become charter, it wouldn't make sense to do that without also doing more of that outreach. Because like you say, yes, like people would need to know why they might want to come here.
Susan,
Mhm.
So one thing I think that I'm guessing a lot of people, it would make logic that they would actually want to know is going to a charter school, does that give you more flexibility with the actual curriculum instead of having to go by the exact schedule that the state and federal governments might put out? Does that give you more flexibility to adjust it to the student body, or?
Maybe I'll defer to Kristen on this one. Like, I think my impression is that it like a lot of charters are organized around a particular like an idea or a concept or something, you know.
STEM or something.
Yeah. But we are still, as a charter school, subject to state and federal laws. And so.
No, I mean, flexibility, not
Yeah.
wiping it, but just
Yeah.
flexibility.
I think the piece in there, and Kristen, I should let you talk first, but the Oregon state standards are still,
Right.
whether you're a charter or regular public school, it's those standards that are driving what you teach. And so ways of teaching, and just to go to the, like, I pride us like in our work towards project-based learning. Some of you know, like, I'll point to the garden since you're gonna see that on your way out, but that is 100%, well, we have staff supporting, but we talk a lot about students leading side by side with adults towards community vitality. And I think it's a really tangible piece to what's happening in our program. And the more we build that up, can you connect science, math, social studies, and whatever else subject I should name right now, to learning in a garden or in a project-based environment? 100%. We're doing that already, whether we're charter or not, and growing in that capacity. But I think it's something to help, like to Mizu's point, to tell the community, why would a student want to come here? Because you get to lead and contribute in meaningful ways while you learn those Oregon standards.
Because one thing that we had heard from a couple of teachers is that they have a set schedule with certain classes. You have to do this unit this many weeks, and then you have to do this unit in that many weeks, and you can't vary from that. Would this possibly give the teacher more latitude in saying, you know, our class isn't up to this level? You know, maybe we, you know, does that happen, or do you just get by and say,
They go on past, before the kids all have the concept down, they have to move on to the next concept. And especially in math classes, that hurts a lot of our kids.
Yeah. I don't know that I mean, I think interventions, wraparound resources, support, like all of those things can happen in a charter and a public school setting, and should happen in a charter and public school setting. So in terms of, I'm trying to think, this is like a wild example, but it's not, I'll go back to the Oregon teaching standards. If they're in 4th grade, there's a set of standards that need to happen in 4th grade. It's not, we can't say, oh, they're not ready for that yet. We're gonna do 3rd grade here and 4th grade there and mix. Like they're fairly well defined by grade level there. So for charters and regular districts.
Michelle.
This is for Kristen. When do you counsel districts not to go charter and why?
Sorry, I'm gonna come off the mic here. I don't really counsel districts to not go into charter. It really is so unique to each individual community and district and school that they're serving. It depends on what their whys are for becoming a charter, right? Districts have to have a really strong why as to why they want to become a charter. How is it going to best serve their students, their community, their teachers? And, you know, if their whys aren't really grounded in those values that their district and their school holds, then charter might not be a good fit for them. But more often than not, small rural districts that are seeking to become charters, they end up being successful because they know their communities, they know what's needed, and becoming a charter allows you all to be a little bit more flexible and innovative in your learning. Like I heard about project-based research, you know, research projects, and you can hire staff that has like maybe from the field, right? That can get a charter teaching license that maybe not be registered, but they can still teach at your school. So there's a lot of room for innovation and creativity when it comes to serving your community through the school through a charter that you don't necessarily have by just remaining a district school. So I don't really counsel people either way. I let them make the decisions, but I give them all the information and say, here's all the information. You can make a wise choice for your district as to which direction you'd like to go.
So what would change and what's our intention in changing?
So, I mean, I guess the main things that we have in our conversations with Kristen and other charter schools, have determined is the main thing that changes for us, if should we choose to go charter is, things like, they're like extra or sort of like, specific things like changing, like calling ourselves, okay, we're now Mapleton. I'll say Mapleton Charter School, but that's not necessarily, right? But like Mapleton Community School or whatever it is, and it's a K-12 designation. Things like that, but like practically for us, it would mean that like, if there are, we have students already in the district who choose to go to Triangle Lake or Siuslaw because that fits them better, right? But there may be students from outside of this district who would choose to come to Mapleton because it fits them better. Right now, we're limited as a public school, we have sort of enrollment limits when it comes to schools transferring or students transferring from other districts. And both districts have to agree, okay, if this student wants to transfer to this district, then both districts need to say, okay, we'll allow that. And there are some like number caps on that. Becoming a charter makes you sort of a school of choice. It means that it removes those restrictions and boundaries kind of. Any students that from outside of the district who want to be able to enroll in our district.
Do schools generally disagree on students wanting to change schools?
The landscape has changed so much recently because charter schools have become pretty common.
I can take a stab at that.
Go ahead, you
Sort
go
of
first.
you
go first,
experience
yeah,
the full
a little
front too,
bit,
but right now, like I learned in this process early that we can actually send a bus into Florence is the closest. We have kids who come from Florence. We could send a bus there right now. And all of our students, Siuslaw, and us, when a student says, hey, I want to go to the other district, we meet with the student and family, but we're gonna say yes, right? Neither of us is saying no. But there's a cap for how many total students can be in an interdistrict transfer. And if we sent that bus, and let's just assume for a second that we're gonna fill a whole bus, that would put the number of students from Florence over the cap to say yes. So then they could start saying no, which means then we couldn't afford to send the bus there now. Does that make sense? So it's the cap right now, we're all operating under that cap. But
Do we have students that want to transfer to Mapleton? Is
Yeah,
that?
what's the demand on that? Cause I know that there's some kids going both
both
directions.
directions, yeah.
What is the demand? Really?
I don't think we know that fully because we haven't been pursuing, hey, you can come here, without figuring out if we're doing this. But what I will say is that, there are, families who say they'd be interested, but there's no transportation. And so that piece of that is at least stopping some.
So what's driving this? The desire to bring more students into Mapleton or what? I'm not.
I think it's kind of taking down that invisible barrier that we don't know who might more still be out there. We do know there's some, right? And with the transportation situation where if that invisible wall is gone, we can go get them. Those caps are changed then as far as who can come into our district and how many kids can come. And we don't know, like when, the fact is we kind of are already offering a different program here, especially with the project-based learning. And I think if we market that, which we haven't really, and changing the name allows us the opportunity to do that, we'll see a bit of influx just simply because of that.
So we're trying to bring more students in.
Yes.
Basis.
And make sure enrollment can maintain over time. I think that's the big, and just recognizing that there's a school in a district on each side of us who who have
And-
different rules than we have currently. So I think that's some of the conversation is being able to operate by the same rules as the people surrounding us. Is
Lisa said that before you got here, she was saying it's about money. And kids mean money. More kids in the school bring more money into our district. You can also.
So we do, we want more kids in, that's the.
It sounds like a fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, also,
One,
classes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
more
right now,
opportunity,
we
yeah.
don't have enough kids to fill more classes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that really two-pronged, or like having more students, it does a lot of things, you know, it provides that kind of like just larger group, like provide possibility of more opportunity and everything. And, you know, additionally to serve more students in that, you know, because we are funded on a per student basis.
Right.
So more students would bring us.
So it makes sense then, okay.
Are there a lot
Vanessa,
less students
can-
grade
can-
1 through 12?
Can you guys hang on one second? Everybody's generally doing great, but can we have like show of hands so that we're making sure we're getting to everyone? Go ahead, Vanessa.
So I know there's a family here that lives in Mapleton and their 3 kids, they chose to homeschool because it's not a good fit for their family. Mapleton isn't, and neither is Florence for their family, so they decided to homeschool, but they needed a little support. So they're actually signed up with T Lake for their T Lake charter program.
Yeah.
Where T Lake gets, they're like 15 grand per kid and gives the parent a $2,000 stipend to buy their own stuff. And then I guess they can call in and ask them questions every once in a while. Will you guys be offering something like that? So like these homeschool parents can get 2 grand and we can get 13 grand and offer them little, I mean, cause that's kind of a scam that some of these charters are doing. Are we gonna be able to offer that same opportunity?
Right.
Vanessa, I love your question.
I don't know the answer to that one.
So the short answer to that is some of the question inside of enrollment is engaging your homeschooled community, right? So it's not just, hey, we want kids from beyond our district boundaries, but also how do we meet the needs of folks in our district currently, right? And one model that districts do is kind of a pass through, and there's I do want to name, there's a lot of accountability at T Lake for that program. Some places are total scams, I also want to name. So, but I don't want to
But
put,
pass through where we can get
yeah,
money
I
and
want to make
offer
sure
them little services.
we don't lump T Lake into all of those models, because there is accountability on their money for pass through. So is that the model for us? We're not that far. We're still trying to figure out, is the community open to charter? Like, we really are having these conversations as we go, but part of that is what would be the model for engaging homeschool families? And is it, we're starting to get some homeschool kids that are coming to engage in sports and electives. Sometimes they're coming and trying out full days. So the more we get to know those families, like what are they looking for, and building a model towards that. So,
Cause it could be a good income source.
yeah.
You know?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, over here, you've had your hand up for a bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so, you mentioned here that, so I want to talk about finances specifically.
Mhm.
From what I understand, and I read a little bit about funding, and you guys also write it here, that there's no direct funding increase associated with becoming a charter school. And from what I gather, what the state is giving us per student right now is less than what we actually spend per student. So the expenditure per student is higher than what the state is giving us. So we might, did you run any financial projections of what happens, let's say if we have 20 more students, our average spend per student will actually decrease, not increase, until we get to some inflection point of numbers of students where it may increase, but that's.
Right, well, at this point where you have to add another teacher.
So,
Yeah.
and I also kind of was reading further on that in Triangle Lake, when they switched to a charter school, they actually had to ask for a bond to expand classrooms and to fix the school. And they had to ask for a bond from the community that got rejected, from what I gather. And then they had to get the money from, but is that something that do you already have some financial projections about what is the amount of students we need to actually make this financially viable beyond?
Yeah.
You know, we want competition, but what happens if we have 20 more students, but we don't have the additional money
Yeah.
to support it, then our current students would actually get less
Yeah.
Per student than more. That's kind of, I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
question.
exact numbers for like, what is the inflection point? I don't have for you right now. We can like, but in terms of, I think a lot of people in this room, but also on our board have been in Mapleton through the history of size. And like, if y'all walk the hallway over there, you see the size of the district. So one question that came up with our students is, where are they gonna fit? And I think Mizu you might have laughed, and said, oh, aren't you cute? Like this building used to hold a lot more kids, right? And so like I see Danelle laughing, you know, like those of you who went here when there were more kids, they fit. We've got plenty of room. We don't need to do a bond to fill a
So it's not
classroom.
necessarily
Yeah.
fit as much as you need teachers, you need
Yeah.
resources to support all of that. That's what really costs money, like other than the air.
Yeah, and and you guys can pipe in on this, but I think a really healthy spot for this school is 15 per grade level. And we have some where we're over 15, and we have some grade levels where we're significantly under 15. And I think some of it is looking at long-term, maintaining 15 per grade level. And that's like, in terms of classrooms and size, we can fit that. Well, we do some blending of grade levels right now. That doesn't mean we're gonna stay blended at that level. We blend now because those numbers are smaller, but we still have the room to have them separate. So, in terms of an inflection point, like I'll work with Jared and run those numbers and give you like, here's where actually there's an expensive moment here. And in terms of classroom learning size, our kids are like, please don't make it too big. They like the small learning structure. And for a lot of kids, that's the selling point is we're small, where you don't fall through the cracks here. You try and you can't, right? That's one of our sells. And, but for me, if I'm looking at enrollment sheets, I feel really good when a grade level is at 15.
So that's like 180, like you expect that you would want the school to grow by another 30 or 40 students.
Yeah, well, with pre-K, we're 163 today. And yeah, so
Yeah, 180.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think if there's like, you're bringing up the financial aspect of that, and that is true, but like also you're tying that to like the thing, to like the cultural aspects of, adding more kids too, right? So like,
I mostly think of spend, I saw in one of the high school projects here when we had the open, they were talking about how much money per meal per child per day, and I went into the budget of 25. So I understand like we're financially stable as the district due to the good work of people in the past. So I'm thinking to myself, if this is not like the risk tolerance here, or what happens, if like I see the benefits. I also looked and trying like I see the benefits, but they have like 200 online students from what I understand.
Well,
like half their school is online students that don't have to actually physically arrive. Yeah,
Or exist in the building and take up the space and take up teaching.
Yeah, or take out the resources or that, so I can totally, and we actually talked about that, independent learning and all that. So I'm strongly in favor of that, but the financial, when I look at the budget, I can't help but feel like we're gonna lose money if we don't have a way to actually get the money. Then if we just add 10 or 20 students, we're actually gonna have less funding per student. If we don't actually.
I mean,
have
I would
considerable-
I'd push a little there, because if let's say I have 6 kids in a class, right, in a classroom.
Right.
Well, it's great, right?
6 kids in a class is.
But that's a really expensive per student teacher. Does that make sense? If I can add 4 more kids to that class, that teacher is, right, by kid getting cheaper and cheaper in terms of cost per teacher. So right now, some of our classrooms are actually very expensive.
Yeah.
And that's where bringing in the numbers that actually make it less expensive. It doesn't cost me more to get a teacher for 4 more 4th graders. It doesn't cost me, well, right now, it doesn't cost me money to get for close to 10 more 4th graders. If you're in 4th grade, come on over. But that's what some of the purpose of this is, to
So,
make,
yeah.
to make that cost per student make sense per grade level, right? And so that's when I say run those numbers and I say about 15 per, that's the ideal, because some, by grade levels, some of the costs are significantly higher.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Isn't it also more students equals more funding though? You can get more funding the more students you have. So
Yeah.
if we increased beyond, like 30 more students, 40 more students even, because I mean, honestly, if Sayusla found out what programs you have here, what actual size of classrooms you had, I truly think that there's a lot of parents that would move their children because they're really struggling right now. When I talk to them, they're really struggling right now. So, like we potentially could grow 40 more students and then you still get more funding. Is there any overt downside to this that anyone's brought up? Because I don't really, at this point, I'm not seeing, there's like, this is a red flag and this is what could potentially be really bad with this red flag. I'm not seeing any red flags.
I've tried to find a huge one,
I,
and I can't find a huge one yet. Rick, did you have
I'll
something?
give you a scenario that I'm not sure of, and I'd like to know what the answer is. Does that lose the school identity, for instance?
Right.
Is it now a private school that once the school goes out of business, we're out of business and we no longer have a school in this community?
Right.
So that's something that we have to weigh. It's not just. I mean, a charter school isn't a school. It's actually a business.
It's
yeah.
the same. It's the same as. Go ahead. I mean, if you're.
Yeah, I'd like to say.
It's the same as any other public school.
Is it a government entity?
Yes.
Yes. Like everything passes through. Go ahead. Everything passes through the same way.
We're gonna say something.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I have an Arizona answer. I'm from Arizona. Chris can jump in at any time on this. Okay, charter school funding and charter school oversight models in other states are very different. And in Oregon, and very business oriented, right? And in Oregon, the model of accountability to a district, so every charter school, whether it's a charter school model or a charter district model, you're still accountable to a public school district, and charters are public charters, right? So it's a government entity. We still have the same access to funding. Every decision in the state legislature that currently informs us will still impact us. So in terms of it's a business versus a school in Oregon, I would disagree with that. Kristen, anything you would say differently on that?
No, charter schools public charter schools are public schools. They're run by a charter board. So they do have the school district needs to create a board to run the charter school, which is you have to have a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. So that could be construed as like the business aspect of it, but it is a nonprofit board, and it concerns itself with the daily aspects of the school. It can largely rely upon the district as a whole, but it is a public entity. It receives public state school funding. It's not a private school. It's not a private alternative school. It's not an alternative program. It's its own category of public school.
The one thing you started with in there, I saw some head nods, and I just want to come back to it, of losing our identity. What I thought you might have meant on there is like, and I would say our students brought this up when we met with them, is we're Mapleton, right? And yes, we have some kids that come from other spots, but like Mapleton has a core identity of Mapleton community. And the more you bring from outside that, do you start to lose some of that Mapleton identity? I think it's an important question. I think that's part of the reason of talking with community on this. And a potential red flag. I don't think it's a glaring red flag, but Melissa, to your point of like, are there red flags? I think that's one that small rural districts have to grapple with. Of we we can do more with more people, but if those people aren't us, does that change things? And I think that's part of the planning forward. So I get,
Hang on one second, Shauna, do you have anything?
Would the charter board be responsible to say, oh, we now have too many students in this grade, we're not gonna be able to let anyone new come into the school, so you have the opportunity to say yes or no?
So
Or come up with
we-
something else.
right, like we would set rules of sort of like an admission structure, right? Like but it would include things like grade level caps, maybe. So it's like, okay, we aren't gonna accept more than whatever we decide, 15 kids per grade, 20 kids per grade, whatever it is. And it could be different at different grades, because maybe we think it's most important to have smaller class sizes in elementary, but then it's okay to have slightly larger class sizes, whatever. Like, we haven't, those are all those kinds of like specifics that we don't want to start doing until we've had these conversations. It's like hearing what is important to people, yeah, so we haven't worked those kinds of specifics out, but we would have the ability to do that. What we can't do is like deny
Or private alternative, or something like it changed different things in order to like be able to stay open. It's not open anymore. But, would we be able to, like, if it doesn't work one way, could we change it? And then also they changed how they taught us by like, they separated the boys and girls a couple of years to see if all girls would learn better without the distraction of boys and the other way around, to making it, they were able to flexibly about like how they are able to help the kids, because we didn't have textbooks. We learned everything through online. We had to go to all the websites, Ask Jeeves, Google, whatever, Bing, and find the answers to the questions instead of just one particular text.
So to your point, like, yeah, like every charter is different, like in there, the way they do it. This one, like you asked if like we go charter and it doesn't work, can we go back to being a public school? The answer is yes. Like it's, in order to become a charter, we have to do certain things. And then in order to, like to become a public school again, we would need to do other things, but it is possible. Yeah.
I heard someone ask a question, what are the downsides of this? Now I'm gonna go from the other way. What are the downsides of doing nothing?
Yeah. That's where, like, well, I've talked a lot.
I mean, are our younger classes smaller? And so we're not gonna have as many students, which means less money per,
Yeah.
is that?
I would say there's a trend over probably since COVID. So our incoming kinders for the last couple of years have been seven, no, what are we right now? 5, 7, 5, 6. So when you start, but I will say some of those groups the next year have had more enrollment, right? And so they fluctuate, but it's still scary, right? When you look at that long term, and I don't know how many of you are watching enrollments across the nation and Oregon, but people are having less babies. People are putting less babies in schools. And so you want to be as a district thinking about all the ways to get the babies into schools. I don't know, and so to the point of elementary, and I think from 5th grade, I should have brought the enrollment, but I think from 5th grade up, we're 13 or higher. That's not, I've got 11 seniors right now. So, but we're double digits, 5th grade and up. Down in the lower grades, we need to be talking about how to make sure we stay double digits.
I just wanted a clarification on what Kristen said about the charter board. And is that different than the current board? So is there multiple boards or is that the same thing?
Could you hear that?
Okay, I just heard her say charter
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
So I didn't know if that's the same board.
Good question.
So the charter school will, if you become a charter single school district, you'll have to create a 501c3 nonprofit. And because you're a nonprofit, you have to have a nonprofit board. And so that board is going to be separate from the overall school district board. And so it'll operate within that framework.
However,
those can-
we can be the same, they can be the same board, because we're going full district.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't have to have two separate boards if you go full district.
Yeah.
That's
It's like,
the,
wait,
yeah.
So will it be board?
Yeah, I mean, it is right now, so like we would, but and like ideally, in my mind, we would still continue to hold board elections the same way we do and have a single.
But
board.
yeah, you would be,
Yeah, because.
And the elected board would serve as the 501c3 operating board, one and the same.
So it would
The-
be a nonprofit board and then the school board.
Right,
It would keep
that-
the
yeah,
same.
That
be the
was a
same.
requirement like earlier in this sort of charter school movement. And so for instance, like Blatchley did that and they did have two boards and they just last year merged those boards back into just being one.
Yeah, Mackenzie merged earlier, but same thing, when they started, it required two boards. And I am not, there, I'm sure there's a single district charter out there in Oregon with two boards currently, but I would argue the ones that went to one board are really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, on the
Yeah.
downside things, if we had to have two separate boards and had to like operate the thing, that would be a downside
Yeah.
to me. And not because I'm on the board, but because like the more that you try and like, there's just a lot of points of
I would be parts.
Yeah.
Can I see hands just so I know where we're at on who has questions? Okay, you have it in the back. You haven't asked anything yet.
So if the push is really to get more enrollment and more kids, do you guys have a current, we'll say, idea of a cap of what you're looking at for your classroom sizes? So if you guys are pushing in, we'll say, like for me as a parent, if my hope is that you get a big influx of online students and not in-person students, what's your cap on in-person students' classroom sizes, you guys? I mean, you were saying like you'd like to get 15 for the whole grade, which like at Law, 15 plus, I mean, you don't even have a single classroom with 15 kids. We could only hope that there. But I mean, are you looking at wanting to still maintain those smaller classroom sizes that are appealing, and that is so appealing for a lot of people to want to bring their kids in? Because I look at, like our situation, I mean, there's 6 kids and, the current classroom size, and even maybe 10 would be fine. But if you get up to like 15, that's not that appealing any longer for people wanting to bring their kids there for the smaller classroom sizes. So what are you looking at your cap, we'll say in person, being for some of those younger kids?
And mostly probably because like the combined elementary grades, when it like gets,
Yeah.
is probably what you're discussing. I mean, we briefly discussed it. It's like you said, we hate to dive too much into making the rules and details if it's not the path we're going down.
Because that's something right now, even like, that is a marketable thing for you
Yeah,
guys. when
it
you
is.
can, is to have those smaller classroom sizes. It's,
Yeah, I second.
yeah.
Yeah.
but
I mean,
sometimes too
we
small
know
is
you
too
need more.
small.
Yeah.
Cassie, do you want to,
I will say.
Cassie works in a room of 6.
Grade class, there's 6 of them. And it's hard to do a lot of the things that we want to do with just 6 kids. Like, I would think 15 or 16, that's a good number, would be great.
Just thinking about pairs and groups.
Yeah. And they don't, I mean, right now, sorry, I'm turning bright red, but now they get tired of each other. It's like a fight to get them to be partners, because they're just like, they're almost like siblings at this point.
They are siblings at this
And,
point. That's
like-
what I was gonna say.
So I think 16 would be like.
Better than
great.
6.
Yes.
I had 40% of my kids graduated and I had 40% of the graduating class. And there was 1 girl and 4 boys. And yeah, so there's.
Yeah, we have one
Senior
girl.
field trip, I had to go take my daughter out shopping because the boys were skiing because it wasn't her thing. It'd been nice to have 16 kids in the class.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
More
that,
than 5.
right, I do think that like sort of the base question there is like, would we have caps because we don't want it to get too big? We
Not for
don't
the
want to
whole
lose
grade,
that.
but I mean, for classroom size.
Yes,
It would be
Yes.
more classrooms. I
Yes.
mean, yeah, but we kind of have to do grade 2, so
right.
it's
But the answer would
tough,
be,
but
that certainly, yes, like that's part of what Mapleton is like every student gets individual attention and you know, like that is what we do. And I think that
I just
there's
hate
no-
for you guys to lose that.
yeah, there's
because I
no
think
desire
that's
to
where
change that.
This is
But-
marketing for you guys right now, you know?
I think this actually brings up how do you actually keep this school local? If you have, you know, this pressure to make more money with more kids, but then I think 16 is a lot. Like I am very happy. 6 maybe is too little.
Yeah.
But then 16 on one teacher.
Yeah.
In elementary school sounds like a lot of bullying, sounds like a lot of things that maybe don't happen today when it's so small that you can't really disappear. But with 16, I feel like you can already start disappearing in the crowd. But again, it's a privilege to even talk these numbers, right? Like to even, so I'm thinking that, I don't know, so I feel like it's a tricky balance that we'll probably need more than one community chat
to find
to
those numbers.
figure out how to, you know, balance that need. You know, if you have 100 more parents that don't live here, like it's good financially for the school to have those kids, but then whether they contribute to the actual community and.
Over here, Courtney, and then you.
It's just an initial reading. It looks like that when you become a public charter school, that you lose access to running state bonds for facilities improvements. And like state matching funds. Is that accurate? That we wouldn't be able to run bonds in the future?
That's it. Kristen, do you know that answer? That question showed up on Facebook as well, so. great
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I have to double check my sources to see if you become a single district charter, if that's still true, but I can get back to you on that. Yeah.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, yeah. And
question. Go ahead, texting my single district friends.
What I was gonna say though, is that like our classroom, even at 15, if we were like, that's our cap is 15, that's still a really small class size compared to pretty much every school out there. I mean, average it's like 20 to 21 to 22 to 25, 30. You know,
40 to 50 kids in
yeah,
my.
great. You know, like
36 in every classroom.
that's right. So I mean, like even 15, I'm just throwing it out there. That's great for our school. That means our community will thrive. When you come to Mapleton, who cares if you live in Siuslaw, you already am. You are part of Mapleton. You're part of like, you need the service hours, this is part of Mapleton, and people feel integrated and they claim they are with Mapleton. They may live in Florence, but they're part of Mapleton. So that is still part of the identity of where you go to school. People wear their colors tried and true, you know, like they really enjoy it. So, but like 15, think of like the social benefits for your children because they love each other and are like family and grow up together. Their dating pool is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
You just keep working through it.
you need more people, you need more cultural, you need more involvement of more students to have some more integration into their school. But 15, even if that was like your max cap, like realistically, it's a really small number.
Danielle's been like, hold on, back there. Maybe stretching. Are you stretching or are you?
Oh, I'm trying to talk.
I have a question about the nonprofit part of it. So does that mean you can get money through grants more easily than we could now? I don't, what's the purpose of having being a nonprofit? What's the benefit of that?
I don't know what actually the state benefit for, like why that is a requirement that you have a nonprofit, but I do know, like, we did look into the grants, like, could we still get grants or get more grants? Like, it doesn't appear that either would be, like, we would say that have similar access to grants that we do now. And that is something that we do utilize a lot right now. And Sue is really excellent at identifying opportunities and pursuing them. We could still do that as a charter school. But I don't know what being a 501c3, like,
Well, people can make donations and not, have it be tax deductible. but-
Kristen's, look at Kristen's face. C4, Kristen.
On the nose, on the nose. That's right. You become a nonprofit organization so that you can receive donations. You can do fundraising. Not that you don't do fundraising already, but if you have significant donations, they are tax deductible. You'll get a number from the IRS, which would be your number, that you would provide folks for receipts. And being a nonprofit is simply just what is in the charter school law. So in the state of Oregon, charter schools they have to be a nonprofit. That's in statute. So just to be compliant with that. I do have to leave because my son's practice is over, but are there any questions that I can answer while I'm still here for the next minute or two?
Anybody have one that's like
Burning
they're-
questions for
might-
me?
But do we get a little bit, like, I'm a little disappointed in the state recommended math, like, I went through calculus. And I can't even help my first grader with their math because they want you to take a 1-step problem and make it a 10-step thing and draw all this stuff and do this stupid stuff. Would we have more opportunities for some math where parents might be able to actually help their kids a little bit? Or are we still stuck to that same stupid, crazy 20-step problem?
So you have to meet you have to meet instructional hours that are in statute and instructional, I was going to say meeting minutes, but it's basically the hours and the standards, right? So there are standards, state standards. Now there's an Educational Accountability Act that was passed. So now there's like more metrics that the state is going to be looking for the students to meet. But yeah, all the Division 22 standards you need to meet. There are some that are listed on the charter school website. Charter schools are exempt from some Division 22 and have to do most of them. So there's a nice handy list on the website, but largely you have to meet all of the standards that's in charter school law. So that's Oregon state standards. How you meet those standards is up to the school. It's up to the teachers. It's up to the curriculum. These are all curriculum and instruction decisions based on a local level. But that's up to the school and the curriculum team on how they deliver that. But there are standards that need to be met.
So is the curriculum, is there more options with being a charter, or is it the same? They could have chose
The
different.
options that you have are basically you have a little bit greater flexibility for innovation, right? So you have a little bit more wiggle room to like bring other people in or learn in different ways, right? So I would suggest looking at the Division 22 matrix so you can see which standards are not applicable to charter schools and which standards are. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's on the charter school website. It's a Division 22 matrix. It's under the relevant statutes and rules tab. But largely, yeah, you have the flexibility you have is in how you're going to teach those standards.
There is a little more flexibility, or no, the same flexibility as a regular school?
I would say it's fairly close to the same. I'll look at this matrix, but I don't
It's
think
fairly
that's
close to the
it.
same. It's really just how you're going to deliver that.
Yeah. Kristen, real quick, I want to read this response from my single district charter friend. If you find different than this, can you let me know so I don't lie to everybody? So this goes back to the capital and bond matching dollars. Yes, because we are still eligible because the district is eligible, even though you are a single school, it is under the district. So the school is not eligible for those dollars, but the district who is supporting the school, which is one and the same of itself, is. So you can do that.
And it's not.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, because I know I was concerned in the beginning, because I work at a charter school, we're not eligible for everything.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest concern, but as a district.
The district could do it and then say yes to you guys, but for us, we're saying yes to ourselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Kristen.
Oh yeah, no, that's correct.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say more. Sorry.
if you have any other questions, it was really lovely meeting you all and hearing from your community. It seems like everyone's like super engaged and I'm excited for this process. But if you have any questions, please email me. I'm more than happy to provide answers and support you in any way.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye. Michelle.
How's the staff feeling about this?
They were, I mean, they had some similar staff questions, you know, concerns for them that most things were calmed, right, by any of the answers. I think they're all overall, Cassie just left, I know, Lou's here, but open to it and are comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of questions about the specifics of it, like, you know, like class sizes or, you know, very, like things that really they on a day-to-day basis, you know, like impact them. There were a lot of questions about that. My question about, but I don't. There were, you know, when we kind of closed the meetings, we're like, okay, like, you know, it's trying to get a temperature check, right? And so far, actually, in students, staff, we've not had one like absolutely not for this reason, like that. So we didn't get that from the staff yet. Yeah, we're not done engaging, like, you know, like, so.
What is your process and your timeline?
If we want to do this, we would like to, takes work to do to, you know, establish that 501(c)(3) and to do the outreach work that we would want to do. But we would want to be, you know, should we decide to do this, we'd like to have that ready to go and be established as a charter school by next fall. And it's work. So we obviously, like, for administration and for Jaren and, you know, like they would have to do that work. It's best to not do it during the school year because they have a lot of other things. So we would need to make a decision by like the June board meeting, I think.
Yeah, I just want to address one thing that was said in the past, that Cassie said, I want you guys to know 15 students are easier to handle than 5. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but when you have 5 kids, you have to spend more focus on the kids that are misbehaving. When there's 15 kids, they help manage the other kids. And so it seems a little odd, but it actually is easier to run 15 than it is to run 6.
Carly. I'm sorry, Kim, you next, you'll be next.
If you go charter by next year, how do you like expect the bus tips from other districts when all of our buses are in use?
Yeah.
And buses are like a year and a half out for ordering right now.
Yeah. That's a serious question.
And so you're correct.
Yep. And we haven't figured that out yet. And we could become a charter and not have that part set up if we have to, you know, like, but obviously we would want to, it would be important. So we're still trying to figure that bit out.
What about changing to like first student busing or something like that and not having it in-house?
That's one of the possibilities, but
I just contracted out in schools when you see those first student buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know offhand, but over half of districts in Lane County contract with an outside, they don't run their own bus fleet. So, and you can do a combination bus fleet and contracted services. So there are options. In terms of when we met with staff and issues that arose, the bus fleet was one of the like, hey, sure, you want to put kids on that bus, which bus are you talking about?
yeah.
Cost wise, which cheaper?
Say it again.
Cost wise, what's cheaper to?
Oh, but between first two, I actually don't know that answer. Yeah.
We'll have to,
So,
we didn't run the numbers yet because we still same thing. We're like, not sure if we're gonna go do this.
Jobs leaving too, so.
Yeah. Can I back here? No, wait, we go. Okay.
Oh, yeah, good. I think,
Yeah, she's been ready.
They've all been waiting since before Sean and.
that's right.
Find Janelle's point first, and
Then
then you're gonna
you're
go.
gonna. That's okay.
I mean, I'll get back to the class side. I just have a question about the lower grades. So when I was in school and as we talked about, this school was a lot bigger and we had about 35 kids in our grade. And you couldn't disappear. I mean, as much as like, you could, everybody still knew everybody. That's felt very, very small. So now with this much lower number, it would obviously be an adjustment for kids because they've been used to this, but it's still felt very, very small. But we had, so my question is that, I know in the lower grades you have it blended, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 5, 6 anymore, but, would that still be the intention to keep blended, or would there be a thought to separate those grades? I mean, when we were in elementary school, we had 2 classes, 2 classrooms at each grade level, because that was what it was, you know, K through 5 was 6 even. So would that be an option for that number of kids? Like the cap that people are asking about to separate those from blended, and this might be details that we can work out later, but I just.
There's no, like the blended, is not like we must stay blended. If we blend because
Because we don't have the
staffing,
number, yeah.
it makes sense in the afternoon to blend them.
Financially be money to then hire more teachers to.
Yeah.
Fill.
Yeah.
And maybe split classes.
Although that does come to like Ami's point of like, where's that typically,
What's that?
where you get enough,
Yeah.
where you can hire, you know, so yeah.
I mean, it's a welcome problem to have, figuring out how to deal with it.
Right.
But, and we also like consider the blending every year too,
Yeah.
and reconsider how,
By the
because it,
numbers.
by the numbers, yeah.
Back here.
Okay, so I had to write it down because I'm gonna forget those. First question is, are we currently meeting all of the educational standards? Like, I know we don't have languages here. How do we meet languages?
Yeah.
And I believe there's a couple others, but I can't think of them.
Mhm.
Part 2, how soon do we anticipate to get the staff needed to meet whatever standards we're not currently meeting now and additional kids? If we say we do get the cap of 15 per grade, are we gonna get additional teachers and how soon is that gonna happen? I watched some of those, the district applications and stuff, and some things are happening for a long time. How are we gonna get the volunteers to help support this number of kids that we're anticipating too? I feel like sometimes we're drawing from an empty well in this community. I love the people who help out, but it's really straining sometimes. How do we expect to be able to support all of that with Mapleton being as small as it is? Yeah, we'll have parents that say they're in Eugene. How are they gonna get out here in time to be able to do?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot of words.
Let me, can I back up to language? So in terms of, big gaps in what we offer, I would say, world language at, middle school, high school level, high school specifically. We meet that requirement for students to, who need like 2 years to apply for a university in very independent ways. So we've had students take
So
classes
it's not private.
offline.
When I went to school, it was to graduate, not for college.
Yeah, so
It's not
it's not a graduation requirement, it's a university requirement, and so we work on an individual basis. We would love to offer a world language course here. We don't have it currently. And I would say music comes up all the time, in board meetings, board discussions, community conversations. If you were on campus during 7th period today, you would not know we don't have music here. There's a live show coming, Wednesday morning that we've got a band started on campus. There's awesome things happening connected to music, but we don't have a K-12 music program. We do have a K-12 art program. And am I missing anything? Those are the two places that I would say we'd need and want to grow the fastest. In terms of how, like, if you have those numbers, how fast can you add? There's a short answer and a long answer. There's an annual budget cycle that probably makes sense for staffing to happen in like the spring budgeting cycle for the next year. That said, let's say we went from some number at some grade that all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, we actually can't staff this grade level because it grew so fast. We can make decisions internally, and we've done that over the last couple of years to say, hey, we need to hire this position and here's why, and then the board can approve a change to the budget within the cycle. So hopefully that helps. Anything to add?
Well, there is also a lag in terms of when they use like the enrollment numbers that
Yeah.
you use to determine your funding.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, look at the numbers from previous years to determine your funding for this next year. So there is some, like, point at which there's a lag between if we take new students and have a higher enrollment for when we get the equivalent funding.
Did you, so
Sit down.
I just have one quick question. Is there different parameters around the special education with a charter school? Just because it seems like there's been some things we have to in the last couple of years as far as the resources for special ed, and so does that change with being a charter school or?
Which same requirements, serving all students, especially as a single district. You're serving the students who are in your school. Some charters who are under a larger district can work with their district on what they serve, but when you're one and the same, you're serving all students. Jan?
I feel like in a way this would, going charter would put us, we would be actually competing for students. We would be advertising our programs, so, it feels a little bit commercial in some ways to do that, and I'm not sure how would that affect us?
The Arizona inmates coming out.
Yeah.
Or are we already?
Yeah.
Well, that was,
Right. The reality is, and none of us want to be competing with our neighbors for kids and money. But the bottom line is the state pays a per pupil funding model. And until that changes, we're all trying to, we're trying to show our best selves to make sure that kids and families know that we exist and that the kids, that we'd love for their kids to come to our school.
so in a way, it's almost essential given our money.
I mean, that is one thing is that like right now, because we're this sole public school island with every district around us has charter status. Now that's a disadvantage in that kind of competitive atmosphere. I also do not like the idea of that competition, and I prefer for us to do it by presenting ourselves, and like accepting people who want to, want what we have and not trying to do it, because we want to take from somewhere else or we need whatever. I'd like to provide best
Meet the
fit
needs
for
of students.
Yeah, but meet the needs of students, provide best fit for families.
But I think with that, we do have to tell everybody who we are, what we're offering, because we're offering great stuff and you do have to market it to tell them. So, and it's just simple that with a change at the school and with a name change, you already have to rebrand yourself. You gotta change all the logos, all the things, all the letterhead. It's a really good time to get it out there.
I think the reason I thought of that is because I saw at Triangle Lake advertising. Oh, that's natural advertisement.
Yeah, it is weird. My school advertises too, and it's really odd. It's odd to think that you advertise for that.
But we've been talking about that for 20 years, about having a brochure at the real estate offices in Florence. So we have been kind of missing the boat here for years, not getting the word out. And I'm not sure what kept us from doing it, but, it's just squandered time. Really.
Can I ask a quick question for everybody? I know there's hands, but how many are seeing the Sailor spotlights in the last 2 months? Are they making them to you? Woo! So that's just capacity and more thank you to the board for helping build some capacity in that. And we have a commitment to doing that whether we go charter or not, but the more we get what we're doing out there, the more people are calling us to say, oh, what else is going on there? And that's part of, and when I say are we already advertising ourselves? In some ways, this is one avenue towards doing that, whether we're charter or not, because our community understanding what's happening in our school matters no matter what.
Yeah.
And one of our showcases instead of advertising.
Right. And one of our,
we're spotlighting.
And one of our things is one of our core values is value yourselves.
Yeah.
We want to value ourselves.
Yeah.
We want to say, here's the value ourselves.
In the back and then Vanessa, go ahead.
So when Carly was asking about the transportation, say somebody from Eugene does want to come. So would you guys be providing transportation all the way? What would your cutoff be? Because like right now, the buses go to what, Tiernan? You know what I mean? And out, same thing for like Elmira. What does that look like to provide transportation for the kids to actually physically come?
Yeah, I think it would look similar to how other charter schools often do it, where they provide transportation to a hub, like, so like, Triangle Lake sends their bus somewhere
Down
into the.
down to Deadwood, right?
Yeah, down to Deadwood, and like, and any
So
students
you
who
have
want
one kind of going each direction.
yeah, and to some established location, and then beyond that, it would be parents' responsibility to transport to that.
As a family who commuted my kids from Eugene, there is a too far. So I think making sense both as a
Yeah, 'cause
family
I was
unit.
thinking
and
about that when you
yeah.
were saying that they're,
Yeah.
what if we had kids from Eugene, and I was like,
That works closer to.
that does not sound like fun.
Yeah, and I think the families have to think about that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of on them too. Vanessa.
And I think that it's a little bit different, I mean, a lot of people are, our neighbors, there's kind of a political motivated charter school and it's taking from the other, and so that's kind of what has given charter a bad name in this last year.
Yes.
So I think that's where a lot of people are like, what, that kind of
Yes.
shell shocked, okay, okay, this isn't politically motivated. And then I also know, like, they were counting their eggs before they had their chickens or whatever, because they were, expecting to have 120, 150 to be able to pay. Here, we already have a certain amount and we don't really need that much more. And like I've heard their numbers are like 70 when they need 120 to break even. Here, if we change to a charter school, the worst we can do is still break even with the same amount we have, and we would be no worse off, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
So then any more that we did gain, and if we really, advertised and really tried to score that easy, homeschool money, then, I mean, if we got 20 homeschoolers, that would be amazing.
Right.
And only 3 other students. I really think that we're not even nowhere near kind of the controversial aspect of the other one, not even in the same class. But this really is, there's not really much we could lose, not really much change. And if you guys really advertise great, we can get those homeschoolers and maybe gain a few more kids in the class.
It is, yeah, it's really an advantage that we're not trying to start something new, and that's the difficulty that a new charter school runs into, and it takes a while. And they get there and, that works, but we are lucky to, exactly like you said.
And just break even.
Yeah.
I think this is a good moment to add, nobody has asked us this, but just to make sure, since there's many people in the room, like financially, we're sitting nice right now, right? And in terms of, if you listen to a lot of other districts, and it's not just around us, it's everywhere, every meeting I go to, I come back and ask, like, are we sure the sky's not falling? And the sky is not falling here, but this is
Before the sky.
really
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah,
forward facing to make sure the sky doesn't start to crumble, let alone fall, right? And so this really is talking future, not, oh my gosh, we're in crisis, we need more kids, let's go. Like,
Yeah, because
I
right
wanna
now you
make
see
sure
it hitting the
that.
large districts the most. And it scares everybody else, but it's not hitting us yet.
Yeah, but not even just the large districts, I think.
Some of the smalls are.
Some of the smalls are having really difficult budget cycles, and I don't know whether, I think he's got this set up, I don't know if he's listening, wants to chime in, but I would say that there are serious financial difficulties, that are involved with education, and we are gonna get a huge increase and, in what we get from the state, and we are lucky because we can remain stable for the moment. But yeah, we are looking at like, all right, this isn't about just remaining stable for the moment. We want to make sure we're trying to think about the future. So, and if we don't, we do see a path where we could become unstable at some point.
Can I see a show of hands just so I know who's left? Wanted to ask her, Michelle, okay, go ahead, Michelle. Oh, Kristen, you too, okay, Kristen.
One thing I will say, you're not lucky, you were smart. So this board was very smart and conservative with the funds, so that's not luck. But the thing I wanted to ask is about the homeschool. We've always been able to have homeschool kids come to this district and offered it out there that kids can come for one class or electives or whatever, is this really a departure? Monies are available? I mean, I've never heard this.
Well, the model in some districts is a pass-through, see if I can describe this without being those other districts. A pass-through of some of the state school funds for, I've seen it for curriculum, for technology, for, extracurriculars. Anyway, and I don't want to say anything beyond that because I actually don't know the model beyond that. And so I think there are homeschool families who connect and look for those opportunities to, oh, if I get X amount of money, I can support my home student to engage in X learning opportunity, right? And make sure that those there's things beyond their home that they get exposed to. And there are places doing that with accountability and in ways that are aligned to standards and could be a model to pursue. And there's a lot of really bad superintendents in this state about certain programs that are happening where there's no accountability and a significant, and unfortunately, when that starts to show up, you get program hopping and shopping to get the money, and there's no accountability towards it. And that's, I'm just gonna say, I don't want to be part of that. Like, nothing in me is ever gonna touch that. To do it in an ethical way with accountability, and it's really about student learning. Is that an option to pursue? Certainly, we can look at it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
No,
I mean,
I mean, does the school district get money for homeschooled kids who are in the district?
We do not.
But
So
under
they-
a charter,
they have, sorry.
No, well, it was
Yeah.
involved in like the registration of it kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a requirement in Oregon to sign up with your homeschool provider, like with somebody for testing. And in Lane County, it's like at Lane ESD. And so they have the oversight of like, yes, the student is doing something and they test, they take the tests and those kind of things. That all runs through Lane ESD, very separate from us, and we don't get any per pupil funding for that. If a family instead chooses to sign up for a district program for homeschooling, that instead of Lane ESD doing the oversight, we're doing it with whatever we offer connected to it. Then there's per pupil funding that comes to the district that can be a revenue source.
and that would be only if we were a charter school. That doesn't happen.
That's a
otherwise?
good question. I am not, that's not true. Scappoose is no, I just outed who I'm mad at, but, there's programs that, this gets kind of in the weeds, but there's programs and versus schools. And there's a fine line between, in some places, about what counts as that. So I will say there is at least a few public schools without charter status who are contracting a company as a program who is running this part of things, and it's getting really fuzzy. So.
Just have a question.
There's a lot of talk about the enrollment, but you kind of continue about Vanessa said about the math standards. How much thought have you given to like excellence within the school? How this would, like, I don't know the current measurements or the standards, if the school meets them or doesn't meet them. I understand that in Oregon, it's pretty, like the standards are not high. But the conversation didn't really revolve around that. Do we have plans within that to increase our standards, to have specification in certain things that today, like music is nice and languages is nice, but engineering, there's like other things that you need certain, like math level. I know that certain kids have to travel to get higher math or to get, is that something that the school puts emphasis on?
Yes.
And also the board, how much does changing to charter takes from the board compliance wise, effort if we're busy with, everyone is volunteering, basically. Whoever's not working, so how much of that time will go to compliance to actually make this happen? If you wanna make it happen by next year, it sounds like we're already in April. It sounds like a very tight schedule to have everything ready and to make a decision and to talk to the community about it. And so it sounds like a tight schedule, but the excellence thing is the most better question.
Yeah. I mean, I would say whether we're a charter or not, we're driving towards more and more excellence, right? And so in terms of we've added, there's a lot of examples that you just named, but I'll say at the high school 4 years ago, we had 0 articulated classes for college credit. Now we have 4 that all seniors are taking at least 2, and they don't have to get the college credit for it, but they're gonna take a class at a higher excellence level. Does that make sense? And then in terms of math, we're offering pre-calculus as articulated credit now, and we have juniors who are taking that course, right? And so in terms of preparing for higher and higher, we offer engineering, computer science at 6th through 6th through 9th. 7. Say it again. Oh, it was. Now we're 6-8. For this, I knew we switched to something this year. And then we support students and just in terms of we talked about the world language piece, but upper level courses, the more students you have, right? To offer a class for 1 or 2 students taking an upper level course, we pursue kind of individualized ways to do that. The more students we get prepared for and taking those courses, then we offer them in our schedule. So that's one example to that. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's like important to all of us to have we want to be getting more and more excellence, but that's gonna be true now and true as a charter. I think that was the commitment for administration, the board and the staff. It's not just I make it happen. So, yeah.
So why can't we advertise now? We have technically open inter-district position or spots available. Why can't we advertise now as we stand? And then what's the cost output to rebrand ourselves as a charter and everything like that? What is stopping us at this point?
So sorry,
Can we
I got
advertise
confused.
without being a charter?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
actually a question I want to ask, Kristen. There's moments where questions come up and I don't know if I'm answering as Oregon or Arizona. In Arizona, there's rules against direct advertising beyond your boundaries. If you're a public, spending those public funds beyond your district. I don't know those rules in Oregon, so I'll look that up and I'll ask Kristen. The second part of your, why can't you?
So if we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to change their charter to be able to advertise. What costs are we putting out to do this switch over if we're not quite sure what our numbers are gonna be on intake yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a cost. I mean, it's fairly small things like your letterhead. Actually, we have that as a district. I don't know what they are right now, but
Might just be like,
there are things that
bank-wise or
say,
registering
yeah.
bank-wise.
Mapleton Elementary is printed on some stuff and we might say Mapleton Community School or whatever. I'm saying that because that's what all the other ones that went single district call themselves, but
You have to change the name. I mean, or can you keep the current name as is?
so that I laugh because who was I talking? I don't think they're in this room, but I was talking to somebody earlier either today or yesterday, and we laughed that formally we're gonna have to do some changing, especially in the way we're registered with the state, those kind of things. I was like, we could spend $1 million to call ourselves, let's say Mapleton Community and we're one, school and we're one. I was like, we still call that building the middle school and there has been a middle school in there for a decade, right? And so in some ways you don't want to spend a ton on that particular piece because y'all are gonna call it what you call it, right? And so.
Still Randy's Market.
That's what the person said. That's exactly who, I can't remember who I was talking to. I cannot remember who I was talking about. That's exactly what they said. It is right. Yeah.
For me, that depends on.
Yeah. So, but I think the bigger.
The name is a big deal though.
Yeah, and who are you?
But can you do like Ken's Family Dish is actually a Yang Inc.
Yeah.
If you look us up on Secretary.
Oh, yeah,
of
lots
State.
of businesses.
But then we're AKA Ken's Family Dish. So
Yeah.
could we do something like that to where we're still
Probably,
Mapleton
yeah.
High School?
Yeah, and we still say that's the
I think it's,
elementary.
yeah,
This is
it's
the.
more of who's concerned about it.
Cause I would like to have like, or, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm 5 generations have gone to Mapleton School
But I think
and I would like it
from what she was
and I
saying-
think you can still keep the AKA.
Yeah.
Even our textbooks say Ken's Family Dish. We're
Yeah,
not
that's
Ken's
a good-
Family Dish, we're AA.
Yeah, good example.
Yeah.
So
But
I
I
think
think
that
like she was
we can,
saying, we can't like, it's not identified for overall anymore as like the elementary school and the high school. Like she said, we're one K through, for K or pre-K through 12. But in reference.
The person who's gonna feel this the most is me. I write reports for 2 different schools. Jaron too. I'll say that.
Mapleton Community School, Mapleton School, same.
Hopefully we'll have 1 report instead of 2 and some
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, just don't make it too crazy.
No.
Yeah.
But I don't think cost wise.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
Jaron. I heard Jaron. Oh,
Right.
32.
Ah, see?
So we are gonna just pull ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's our answer. Yeah.
Okay,
And then, yeah.
There's all sorts of funding made.
And I think, just to the point of how much cost for what goes into advertising, like. I go back to the Sailor Spotlight, right? That's an investment of time and it was, and expertise that somebody we hired is amazing at that. And they serve a role on our campus that was increased capacity across the board, right? And so, we are already doing that. There's a cost to that, but there's also a return on that cost, hopefully at the same time. Go ahead.
So at my charter school, every time we switched from private to charter to whatever, we did change our name. But in different variation of the net, we went from 21st century community charter school to the charter school, to community charter school. But the plus side is that our students designed our motto, our students designed to be what our colors were gonna be, what our words were gonna be.
We don't want none of that.
That's right.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is that. Who's good at art.
Yeah.
Could draw the new sailor or something like that.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
but-
some of that, and what I will say to that, our students are good at incorporating legacy into what we do. So, providing, I said earlier, students leading side by side with adults. I think that's something our students like actually listen to community on that and say, well, the sailor's gonna be in here and it's these colors, right? That kind of thing. And here's a way to make it new and fresh for our age group and bring our artistic abilities to it. So, but we're not planning or doing,
We're not
I'll
gonna
veto
write
this right now.
Never
not-
been Eagle.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're not revamping who Mapleton is, like, this is Mapleton, so.
We just had a conversation back here, but was it clear?
Yeah.
Which was that right now, under interdistrict transfer, if there's a Florence kid who wants to come here, Sizemore School District has to sign off that it's okay for that kid to come here. And if there's a Blatchley kid who wants to come here, Blatchley School District has to sign off to that kid to come here. But because Blatchley's, is that not true?
Blatchley doesn't have to sign off with it because they're charter.
Because they're charter.
Oh, like those
Yeah.
kids can just come here.
Yeah, so you just has to.
Sign off on them, they, no,
Gotcha.
it has to be both ways, like,
Yeah.
say
So
swap
does
and
that
say.
change, did that change, so does that change now that there's a charter and in Florence.
Only, man,
I mean, it's still, they're part of that district, so.
yeah,
when
it's still a district, yeah, I think they have to have, so I think this is still being worked out, but I think one of somebody said earlier, like the environment around these things is changing. I think just to acknowledge funding in the state around education is a big, like, people are struggling right now in terms of schools and districts. And this is kind of let's say probably starting last year, the first year that we're working in I'm speaking for all education, not Mapleton, working in a kind of deficit mind versus trying to spend down extra money, right? It's a big shift of where we've been to now. There are caps that are defined by, and I'm going to use Situsla, they're next to us, right? They define their interdistrict caps. As things change, the same reason we're having a conversation of future forward about becoming potentially a charter, they have to have internal conversations about what it means in their district. And one potential thing is to lower those caps where they don't say yes to every kid that wants to come over to another school, right? And so,
now if the kid wants to come here from Florence, Sisseton has to say yes.
and we have to say yes.
And if we were a charter, we wouldn't have to ask permission anymore.
Exactly.
The kid could just come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was the part.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
I just wanted to talk about the homeschooling and stuff again really soon, because we homeschooled my grandson right after COVID in 3rd grade, because he was identified here as being having a reading disability. So I homeschooled him for a year so I could get him up to speed, and he was able to get to speed, and he didn't have that disability anymore. And then I homeschooled him again when he was going into 6th grade, because I didn't feel like he was ready for middle school here because he didn't have all the things he needed. It would have been a benefit to the school district to been able to get the money for him, even though I was homeschooling, and it would have been a benefit to me to be able to work with the school district. So I could work with him as a teacher, and get him back into school.
Yeah.
And so I would like to have that available to parents who don't have the ability to homeschool and getting up to level, because there are so many ways to get them up in math and English and everything else.
Other charter schools are offering that, giving the parents 1,000 or 2 and then offering
Right.
little service,
But so I have the ability to do that, but a lot of parents out there whose kids are falling behind don't have that ability. And that's something we could do as a school, is offer that additional assistance.
Is that possible currently in the current school without the charter? Is that possible to support homeschooling? Like someone can register as homeschool and the school will support them without being a charter? Is that possible right now or not?
That was the one
We wrote that down for earlier. Okay, so we're gonna check, is that the one I said earlier? I'm not aware of a public school doing pass-through money. I think there's two, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. There's one layer of supporting students with identified needs with making sure they don't fall behind. Can we do that as a district? 100%. Can we,
and
can
roll
we-
a homeschool
Yeah.
child. Give
We-
parents a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, that's the
offer them
piece.
service.
Yeah.
Without the money to the parent necessarily, like, leave the money aside to the parent. I'm saying, will the school, can I now sign up my son to be homeschooled? But he's registered in Mapleton and getting support from Mapleton without it being a charter school. Is that something that Mapleton?
We
offers?
don't currently. So just to make sure, yeah, we do not currently.
So then with that said, these other charter schools, they're able to do that, right? So you'd be competing with them for that? Or they're
Yeah.
doing that
I don't know.
currently?
Only be taking our discipline.
So I think the answer to this is we would need to define and create a homeschool program that Mapleton offers. It may not look exactly like any other offering out there and give another choice for instead of that model, I want to do this model that is, I don't know what it is, but we should talk. So but we, as a district, we haven't defined that. What is allowed right now is, let's say a homeschool student wants to come do, art and project-based learning here and engage in sports, they can do all of
And
those
we get
things
no money.
with us. The sports, we get no money. If they were to enroll like in 2 classes with us, we get a percentage of that. Yeah, we get 2 hours a day of funding versus a whole enrollment.
There is no coming in.
If
the
a
students are
homeschool
part-
family comes in, yeah, not sports, but for classes, yes.
Carly. I was just gonna say, if a student has like an IEP or an individual plan in a homeschool, we have to stand ready to serve those.
That's true.
And we get employed
You
on.
have to be, if that has to be, the school needs to agree to.
No,
if they're-
That's you're
because that's
federally
not-
mandated.
If they're on an individual, like the IEP or the.
But that's, so, but there's like criteria for that. So again, back to the question, if tomorrow I wanna homeschool my child, but I still wanted to get support from the Mapleton School.
They don't have a program, right? They
I
don't,
know they don't have a program, but you're saying that
only if,
you are mandated to have a
only
program?
if they were on an IEP and in like they had a learning disability or a speech
Okay,
requirement.
so it's
or
like a
those kind of things.
disability
Yes.
criteria, it's
So-
not, I will.
Yeah, through special education,
Okay.
if those services were
Yeah.
defined.
We've had homeschool kids come in for speech services and stuff.
Okay.
Lots of years, yeah.
Last question I have is, can you, when you guys are all done and everything, do a concrete pros and cons list, like? There's a lot, the questions are helpful, but there's a lot in between, and I'm black and white, so pros here, cons here, to help us be able to get a full picture of what's.
Yeah. Misu's the note taker right now, that's why we keep looking over there.
Not everything, but.
Yeah, cause some people like 15, the idea of 15 per class versus 4, but some people think 15 is too much, so. Right. So it'd be kind of hard to say.
But I think we tried it as like, sort of this, we're putting it out, like, cause we could say this is as the district sees it or something, pros and cons, and then people can make their own pros and cons lists too. But yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jan, so do we vote on this as a community, or how does the decision actually get made? Is the school board who makes the
They
decision?
vote. They legally have to bring it up and have an opportunity for the community to give feedback, and then really they can vote however they want. They can just say, oh, who cares what, it doesn't matter what we say. But they have to stand up and vote in front of us, knowing what we say, and they live in this community.
we're probably gonna sit, probably won't stand.
Right. They legally have it.
They're gonna listen to.
Does it have to be a unanimous vote with the board, is there any?
Majority.
Majority 5, right?
I love the idea.
Well, so that's important.
Those are the types of things that are helpful to hear though.
Right, like, I hate the idea. I love
Otherwise,
the
we gotta
idea.
go away with a flaw feel of like, okay, everyone had questions.
I can't actually think of a reason not to.
Right.
And
I can
It's funny, I just need to think about it.
Yeah.
It's almost like.
Yeah, I like
School, really.
Yeah.
If they could reduce the amount of students over the year by.
No,
now,
all that,
so for-
everything they don't plan on changing anything, and every year they're going.
You know,
Yeah.
So
you
that's
went to school here when they're.
Same
were
everything.
students. Well, my mom worked here for 34 years, but in
their
her career,
government.
there were well over 600 students grades 1 through 12.
Yeah.
Now, we're never gonna get back there, we know that,
Yeah.
but maybe a happy medium.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Virginia Carroll.
Teachers.
Yeah, no, I love these fun. Can't have a Mapleton community meeting without that.
Like me too, when you met with the students, you kind of have them give a temperature gauge of like something or not, like you can get a read of.
Yeah.
Left in the room.
Yeah.
Everybody loves
If
it.
you, I just don't, I would just say more to show of hands, like if you were. I guess
The thing I like
favorable.
about this
It's like
is
Oh, okay, we're gonna go with thumbs then.
They're like 75% in favor or something,
Yeah.
like not 100.
Understand the pros or the cons, so I'm definitely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
hold your thumb up though.
If you're a yes, definitely,
Don't know,
or a I need a lot more information, or a heck no.
Right.
I'm in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you're like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like,
And you can turn it to.
What was your Tommy?
You're at 10.
Let me see.
I'm not
You're no thumb. No thumb.
I feel like a lot of it, like you're assuming
My
demand.
daughter is.
I have a couple of issues. You're assuming demand without knowing if there is actually demand. And it's a big process that if we just fill up classes, it makes sense economically. If we just fill up classes to the point where we want them. If we have to add even 2 teachers, it starts becoming economically shaky. I mean, I saw at the board meeting about a police officer, that it costs $200,000 or something.
250.
To keep a police officer in the community. How much does it cost to keep a very highly qualified science teacher or a math teacher if we have, again, we're assuming demand. There's a lot of cost and, energy that's gonna go into the process. And if demand really, if we add 100 online students and we can hire people to handle those students and kind of get a lot of the benefits and we can offer a lot more services, it can be a very positive thing. But if we're at a point where we hire a couple more teachers and we don't have the demand, then we've gone through a big process and added a lot of maybe administrative burden that might not be worth it economically. So for me, if you have any decision, I would have to just see numbers of projected, which classes we need to fill up, what type of demand do we have for those classes? Like I know preschool has 17 kids today. Do we anticipate the growth in the population? Like you can run these tests, Florence has 10,000 people, about 200 kids in certain ages, like you can run those projections. There's a business manager. And we have AI today that can run a lot of these projections and kind of just, for me, it's very much a financial thing. That's how I kind of think about it. If we have more money per student, it's a super positive thing. If we are crippling our money per student, then it's not so positive because then we have less money coming in to do. So that's kind of where
My problem is the math doesn't math when you're just making up numbers, so like.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Like the SIU charter, they're, projecting 120 to break even and they've got like 62.
That's what I'm saying, that it's a nice to say that we're gonna have more money, but in reality, are we gonna have more money?
Well, right, like.
That's, like, will we actually, again, filling up the classes? I'm for it, it makes sense to fill up the classes, like, we have a teacher, he's already there, he's teaching 6 kids, he can teach 10 kids. And it makes sense, we're gonna make more money if we can fill up the classes, even without changing anything, just filling up the classes.
Just some more financials,
One scenario.
Wait.
Oh, I thought.
Charlie's got her hand up.
I was just saying, like you said, like if we could easily probably add 25 to 30 students alone in the elementary without adding teaching staff.
Yeah.
There's that space.
And we're not gonna add before there's kids. I think that's in the scenario you're saying, like, if we buy 2 teachers and there's no demand, well, we're not gonna buy 2 teachers without more kids, right? So that's the, like,
30 to
chicken.
I would love to see that, process happening where we measure, try to estimate the demand and see the financial feasibility. Like speaking on what Vanessa was saying, reaching to an empty pool in that way. Like we want to see that it makes sense. I could totally see how the triangle like it makes sense, 200 students that don't come to school. You get 10,000, 12,000 per student. It's a ton of money that comes into a small school.
One teacher sending a couple emails to them.
Well, again, it's a standard thing. Like for me, I care about the quality of education beyond the small classroom.
100%.
And I think that's what sells more than anything is to know that the kids that go to school are successful. And they go to college and they have great careers and they are successful financially and all those parameters. I think that's like the most, important differentiator for me at least.
What about
Really good.
virtual teachers?
Well, just really fast, like to speak to that, we are not saying that there's any silver bullet. Like, this is not like we do this and it results in additional enrollment. Like, it may not. And so I do think running those numbers is good and all of those things, but it's, I just want to make it really clear that like, we're not, you know, I don't think that there is, because even I know Triangle Lake is gonna make some difficult budget decisions in this next budget cycle, like they have to. And, you know, like, there's no silver bullet, even them, you know, even them doing all that they can, like, is still gonna, you know, because you have to staff up to make the programs you have work. And like, there's always gonna be that balance we're trying to keep. So I don't know that, I just wanna make sure that it's clear that we're not saying if we do this, this will work and we'll like be rolling in the dough.
But I think what,
Yeah.
I mean, it's comes at such a low risk
Yeah.
to make the change. But it's not detrimental to us if we did it and we're like, oh, we got like 2 kids, okay. Like, it didn't hurt that much to do it.
You know, I feel like communicating that, like showing that risk assessment
Mhm.
of, you know, what is like the worst case scenario here
Right.
and what is the best case scenario here. That's like, for me at least, that would, I don't have any decision, like
Yeah.
it's the first.
Yeah.
I don't have anything in my mind. That's why I didn't want to vote, because I really have no idea. I
mean,
want
I
to
feel
go
like
read some more. And
In the
figure out-
end, the biggest lift of it is this. It's all the extra time then that as a board, we're putting into it and having conversations and research. And then there are just gonna be some logistical changes that, once it's done, it's really easy and done. It's just gonna take a little bit of time, but honestly, can be done between now and before school started.
And it also sounds like that in addition to, you know, is there a risk in doing this? We already know for a fact there is a risk in not.
Right.
So you better have in your mind weighing both risks. What if we do nothing? You know, that's huge.
And I would do that less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we did.
Okay, Rick.
So I just wanted to say that, because we've come from places where schools did close up
Yeah.
and they consolidate. And when you get to a place where you're no longer solvent, they just consolidate you and your kids will be bused over to Florence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't come up with a plan that actually is a solvent plan that moves forward,
Yeah.
you're just waiting for the inevitable.
And that's
And
actually.
it's a town killer. Once your school goes away, your whole town goes away.
And this is where this conversation originated, was us saying like, okay, we're looking forward, we're seeing these low enrollment numbers, like, what can we do to potentially address this? And this was like, this is one of those things, and it is right now the best viable option that we have found.
And the wrong timing though, guys.
So.
When there's all the drama about the
Right,
fund,
sure,
and then you guys go.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, probably like they discussed before, and I think you're always gonna have a hiccup. So.
Yeah.
Lou,
Go ahead.
Lou,
Focus on this.
Sort of an adjacent question. So yes, I think you should be pros and cons. I think Brian's asking for in terms of like best case, worst case scenario is good. But if we talked at all, like everything that I'm hearing about is money, money, money. Are we talking about the child's experience?
okay,
Because I'm gonna tell you, if you're in a high school with 24 kids, which is where we're headed, that's a crappy experience. And if you're in a high school with 60 kids, that's a vibrant, awesome experience where the sports teams that you want to play on exist. And the other activities, it could be chess club. Those activities can exist. But
Because
if
you have a
got
few more
20
kids.
You have enough kids. There's enough weight that you can build momentum in the school.
We
And for
discussed the
me,
bathing pool.
yeah.
It's like too many times.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, coming out as an educator, yes, the financial part matters.
Yeah.
But our primary thing here is like, we're trying to build an awesome experience for the kids in the building.
Yeah.
And right now, the high school feels vibrant, we're able to do a lot of things. There are still places where we're not giving kids the opportunities that I'd like to be able to give kids, like, we don't have the non-sports activities that I think would be really great. I think we're close. But having.
We don't have
50
enough,
kids-
yeah, we wouldn't have
having
enough to
50 kids in
sustain
high school
those
now
guys,
that,
yeah.
like, if Blanchard decides that he wants to like. Start like a serious after-school music program, I think the kids and the interest are there to do it. If we have 24 kids, we're not even fielding. I don't know what we're doing for activities. And beyond the extracurriculars, you also have all that momentum in the classroom, like. I was late to this meeting because I had 4 kids down there doing engineering, like trying to get their density ratios right in their modelings, and like. You have to have kids to do that, and so that to me is the biggest thing, it's like, yes, the money's important, but it's the experience that the kids are having is not.
And I think if you look at their class sizes in the 4 to 10.
Yeah.
It's just not enjoyable. I had 20 something when I went to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is what that's what we care about the most.
And it was great. I think that was
Yeah,
a great number,
is-
22.
Mhm.
I mean, it really wasn't enjoyable, really, from kindergarten all of it.
Yeah.
There's some really organic, I said earlier, if you were here seventh period, you'd think we had like a whole class on,
Music.
like rock band, right? Like they're jamming, they're good, right? And so we have this influx of kids who play music and we're learning and it's really cool, but right now with numbers where they're at, and I'll say it's not all boys who are playing, but it's a lot of boys who are playing music right now. We can't do a sports and a music activity at the same time because
Not enough kids.
we either aren't gonna have practice, right? Or like, there's just the involvement there. So like already at the numbers, and we have pretty decent numbers at the high school right now. But building those up as programs, building the interest in being able to do those things from when you're young. More kids makes it easier to do it. So I think to Lou's point, same thing I said earlier about advanced math classes, right?
If there's more.
If we can get a handful of kids, we're gonna assign a teacher. If we have one kid, we're gonna find another avenue with support from a teacher. It's a different model because it's what we can afford. So.
Yeah, and I think so, though. I mean, that was really helpful. Yeah. We didn't think too much on.
It's hard to know what questions to ask. And so when a lot of the financial questions come up, that's where I start thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other ones that's where the pros and cons from you guys would be,
Yeah.
because you know what you're considering.
Yeah.
I just feel like if there's more students and more money, then there's more chances for electives and stuff.
Yeah.
Because Mapleton doesn't have very many electives and they're fairly limited. And you know, electives help keep kids engaged in their other classes too.
Yeah. I will push back a little bit and say there are schools who like tell us, man, you can offer all that at your size. So I feel like we're maximizing it as much as we can.
But we can still do more.
And we're not even near, right? I named music and world languages earlier. There's, you know, and we do have some kids that have gone here and chose to go to Sayusla for a certain elective that's their thing, you know, and it's like, we don't offer that, you should go there, right? We want to be able to do the same thing the other direction
But
would
to
say.
be able to offer those other electives, there needs to be more students.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have the demand.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
More time in the day would be helpful too, but that one we haven't figured out.
There's not enough houses around or to house enough.
Yes.
To be able to bring them
And
in.
industry and,
Outside
yeah.
that boundary.
Yeah.
And that's the problem,
Yeah.
like me and
Yeah.
Andrea and, you know, most of us are hogging all the houses that used to have 2 to 4 kids in them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny, Keith,
Well,
thanks for naming it explicitly, because I think everybody.
Yeah, that's what you
that,
think, either
but-
Mark
Yes.
or Bond or retired, you know?
We're hogging these houses that nobody's usually in them.
There's a lot of Airbnbs around here. Yeah, we have kids here.
Okay.
Not in Raymond. Around probably.
Yeah.
There's 10 or 15 in our district, 10 or 15 in our district.
Of what?
Our district.
Airbnbs.
Yeah, but they're all different companies, they're not.
It doesn't matter, they're.
The cost only has one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we-
yeah.
yeah.
They're hogging your houses that you don't have there.
They're not even the cost anymore, they bought. No longer.
Yeah, I'm trying to thank you guys.
Like, there, the.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody.
We can put a house on there. All they have to do is get.
Start the fire back up.
I mean, there's necessity.
So it would be easier to get like a Spanish teacher because you could just find somebody who knows Spanish almost, or is that how it works?
You still want them to know how to educate, so just.
Yeah. But you like interview them, you know, it'd be easier to find
Yep.
Like a music teacher. Yeah, very specific.
You get,
Okay.
right, and then you, in some cases, you see them.
Yes.
But they come from the craft versus.
Yeah, I know, we know.
And I too, you know, let's,
Yeah.
now you're making fun of that, let me give you a craft. What's that? What if I was it opens up.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to, when I send you the information of my teacher, and I started praying. And you talked to my teacher, the guy that, he wasn't a principal, he was something. But he's the one that got all the finances and everything, he's still. All over the world right now. And my teacher, but then, my school is no longer my school and it's not the same place, but the majority of my teachers went to the same place that they teach, at Methodist, college in Salem, but they have.
Send it our way.
Yeah, you never know, you never know, yeah. All right, have a great day.
Jaren, did you stop streaming? You say? Yeah, hey, big together. There it is.
There it is. Got a little loud and crazy, sorry.
Thanks, Jaren.
Didn't really close out well.